Hello and welcome to the first video in our series, which is going to teach you how to start and build and launch a dropshipping business. My name's Julia Fawcett Murray and I'm also known as the Single Mum Entrepreneur, and I help busy people, busy families, busy professionals create additional income streams through starting dropshipping businesses or online businesses in general, but predominantly within e-commerce. So the first thing I'd like to talk to you about with this video is actually just give you a quick walkthrough as to what dropshipping essentially is and what the different business models are within dropshipping itself. So let's get going. Are you thinking of starting your own online store? Dropshipping is an e-commerce business model that lets you sell products to your customers without holding any stock. Your suppliers will deliver the products straight to your customer from the warehouse, taking care of packaging, labels and shipping. All you need to do is create the online store, find suppliers and the products you want to sell, and import images of the products into your store. You can customize the product titles, descriptions and prices and start promoting straight away. When a customer places an order with your store, you send the order directly to your supplier with their address details. The supplier packages and ships the order, creates a tracking code and ships the item directly to your customer. Your profit is the difference between your store price and the price you pay your supplier for the item. So why is dropshipping such a great way to start an online store? One, it minimises the financial risk. You don't have to spend lots of money up front buying stock that you then need to store somewhere. You only pay for the products that your customers buy. Two, it saves you time. When you're not worrying about tracking, inventory and stock levels, you can focus on strategies that help you sell more, like your marketing. Three, it reduces costs. You don't need to spend money on warehouse fees for storing your products. Four, it increases profits. You can source low-cost products from China, import them virtually into your store and sell at market value. Five, it keeps customers engaged. With dropshipping, you can quickly switch up your offering and sell the latest trending products to your customers. You can also focus on creating promotions to cross-sell and upsell your products. So without further ado, let's get started on your new store. Okay, so that was just a little intro explaining the business model of dropshipping and basically the framework of how it works. What I'd like to go into next is just to give you a little bit of an overview of how much it costs to start a dropshipping business, which I'm sure you'll be very pleased to hear is surprisingly very low. Okay, so how much do you realistically need to get this dropshipping business off the ground? When I started with very, very little with my first dropshipping store, and I just used a very small amount, probably less than $50 to $100, just for some testing out of Facebook and Instagram marketing campaigns, but very, very low cost. And I would recommend keeping those costs as low as possible because you can always make tweaks as you go along. Now, I would say probably between $100 and $200 is around about average, even though, as I said, I started on less. The 20% of that initial amount would be on the Shopify plan. We will go into the plans and pricing in a little bit more detail when we start building the store, but there's a very basic plan that you can get up and running with. And also you may want to pay a small amount for a couple of apps that you can connect to your Shopify store. But I would say 80% of that initial investment, and like I said, I would definitely not go above $200. In fact, I would probably only even go half of that. But I would definitely say you need to keep some sum aside, a small sum of money, just to test out your marketing, test out some sort of Facebook and Instagram ads, very low cost, or it may well be that you identify somebody on Instagram and you can pay for a shout out, as it's called. And we will go into that in more detail at the right time when we talk about launching your store. But I would definitely say that you will need to have a small amount in reserve just to get that marketing machine off the ground. Once again, it does not have to be high cost, but I would say if you keep in mind that between $100 and $200 is absolutely ample, and if needed, you can actually start on much less than that. So having talked a little bit about the structure of dropshipping and also the kind of low investments you can expect to make when you're starting a dropshipping business, you can see already that it is very, very favourable to somebody who's just starting their entrepreneurial journey and who's just sort of making their first foray into the world of online business. So what I'd just like to do now is just highlight the 3 core dropshipping business models, because within dropshipping itself, there are 3 possible directions that you can go in when you're setting up your store. So let's have a look at what those are first and foremost. So first of all, we have the one product store. Now, this is something that has worked very, very well for a great many entrepreneurs that I know in the dropshipping world. So one product stores are built, as you can imagine, are built entirely around one product, where the product is the brand and the store entirely. So it would tend to be that the store itself would have the same name as the product. So it's just purely one product and nothing else. Now, this works very well for entrepreneurs who are great at finding single winning products. I don't necessarily think it's the wisest route to go down when you first start out dropshipping, because it does require a certain amount of dropshipping savvy in order to sort of identify those winning, or that one winning product. But it can be done. It can be done from scratch, from day one as a beginner. But I tend to think that also when you first start out as dropshipping and your dropshipping journey, you do want to feel a certain amount of excitement. And the one product store is often something that is chosen by an entrepreneur that is just very much focused on making money from this, unless it's just one product that they're super passionate about. It's often a great way to build a store that will make a lot of money, but it's not necessarily it's not something that has appealed to me personally at this stage. So it's not normally what I would advise a brand new beginner to start with. So let's look next at the general store. Now, these stores tend to sell a wide range of products across many categories or niches. You'll hear that we talk a lot about niches when we talk about e-commerce. And it's very, very important from day one to feel that you're in a niche that is going to work for you. And we will look at the ways of identifying that in the next few videos. But first of all, I will say that, a general store is very good for someone who is quite a seasoned marketer and would be able to create multiple, campaigns aimed at different target audiences to match the niches that they're covering in their store. Again, this is the other model that I would say is not suitable for a beginner, because with a general store, what can happen is you can end up competing with the likes of Walmart, for example, if you're in the US, or maybe department stores, stores that generally sell, if in the UK, it might be a Tesco or a Sainsbury's, or an Argos, or, it may well be stores that would have a wide range of items, and even competing with the likes of Amazon themselves. You don't really want to find yourself in that position where you're just selling products that somebody can just buy down the road at any of their local stores. So I don't think general stores tend to make it very difficult for beginners to address one niche and one target audience with one message. There's not enough simplicity there, which you really need when you're starting out with this. So I would say don't start with a general store. What I would actually recommend is that you go for a niche store. And niche stores are best for beginners. I mean, I feel that actually they're the best all round, whether you're a beginner or a seasoned pro in drop shipping, actually. I do find niche stores, a lot more enjoyable and potentially a lot, I won't say profitable, because one product stores can be incredibly profitable. But just I think that these are the kinds of stores that people really enjoy shopping in. So they're best for beginners. But what you can do is you can, within your niche, so if you've got one niche, so it might be, dog-related products or, pet products. So say, for example, you started a pet product store, then you can have different categories. You can have cats and dogs, or, rabbits, or just cats and dogs. So if you choose a niche, but then sell multiple products in different categories within that niche, that's a really great way to start. And I do recommend that that's actually best for new entrepreneurs and those who are new to online marketing and Facebook advertising and promoting products through social media. Because if I use very heavily, I use Instagram very heavily for my current store, and I do find that because I'm in a certain niche, it makes it very easy to use certain hashtags to attract a particular target audience. So I would always say that the niche store is actually the best way to go when we're starting out. And that's the route that we're going to go down throughout this course. So let's look at product research methods, because really the next step is, now we've decided, okay, we're going to go with a niche store and look for multiple potential winning products. I mean, say we're going to start out with 20 products, for example. We're going to look for those products within a particular niche, but we need to analyze the sort of the key pillars, as I've put here, for making successful product selection. And I can't probably emphasize enough how much you should, or how much time you should put into the product research side, because the mechanics of building the store and getting the look of the store right and so on is all actually a lot more straightforward than the actual product research itself. And it's a very enjoyable part of the whole process of starting your online business. And don't underestimate the importance of it, and make sure that you spend enough time on it. And I would recommend that, with these videos, please do feel free, go through them as many times as you need to. Don't rush this process, because this is a new journey. It's a new online business. So you have to, really put all your attention into this. So the key pillars for successful product selection. Let's start with the first one. So the product should be hard to find or even not found in general stores. So we've said that in the last snippet, the last video, was that you shouldn't really be trying to compete with products that are available just generally in stores. Basically, it shouldn't be so easy for your potential customers to go and pick up the same kind of product that you're selling in their local store. That's what you definitely want to avoid. So it should either be not found, so it should have such a uniqueness about it that it's not generally found in the stores, or sort of online or the bigger department stores, or it should at least be very hard to find. So somebody would have to do a lot of work to track this product down in another location. It also should be relatively difficult to guess the product's price. So there are certain products that we automatically we think we have an idea of how much it might cost, simply because they're products maybe that we use very regularly in our daily lives, and we just know because of that exposure to them, we know how cheap or not they are. So what you're trying to find is a product that really people will think, oh, I wonder how much that would cost. You've got to make it relatively difficult for people to guess the product's price, because then they won't be looking around necessarily to find a competitive price and to start doing extensive, kind of research and price matching. So that should be one of the key pillars that you need to consider. It should also solve a problem or make consumers' lives easier. Now, this, of course, is kind of sales 101. And with my background in sales of over 2 decades, I know first and foremost that, solving a problem and making your customers' lives easier is absolutely the number one thing you should be thinking about. And those of you who've ever watched Dragon's Den in the UK, there may be an equivalent in other countries. That is something which always gets the dragons really, really excited, is that if they feel that there's something that's new and innovative coming onto the market, but that is actually solving a problem, solving a real problem, and something that maybe other products out there aren't immediately solving. So, I mean, at this stage, you might think, gosh, this all seems like quite an elusive product. But once we start looking at the where you can find products, you realize that actually you can find quite a lot of products that have the wow factor out there. So a customer should want to buy it without much research, so like an impulse purchase. So, I mean, for example, even though the phone case market in dropshipping is pretty saturated, for example, people would do a lot of research if they were going to buy a phone. They would shop around, they would look at different prices. But if they were going to buy a phone case, they probably wouldn't try and find one, because there are so many designs out there. They probably wouldn't go and start trying to track down that same design on different websites, because also the price point, which is another point we'll make in a moment, the price point of something like a phone case is relatively low. So people are less inclined to start doing extensive research in order to save, 50 pence or $1 or whatever here or there. So it should be something that doesn't need a huge amount of research in order to entice your customer to buy. And it could almost be an impulse purchase because they feel, gosh, I've not seen that before. I want to buy one right now. So that's a very important point. Wow factor, we've just mentioned. So it should have some element of innovation about it, something maybe that's your customer's not seen before, and have a wow, this has really kind of saved my life sort of factor. And even sort of kitchen products, for example, can come into that category. So it may be something a particular pet product that's going to be a bit of a lifesaver for someone. So basically, this is just a list to start making you think about your product selection in more depth. You should be interested in the niche. Now, I do know people who sell products that they're not really interested in personally. I personally find that quite difficult. I do like to have an interest in, whether it be fashion or or pet products, whatever, camping is a big love of mine. But I think you will ultimately have a lot of more sticking power and staying power if you're choosing a niche that you're actually interested in yourself, that you feel either quite passionate about, you love it, there's something that will sustain your interest, and you really want to work on the store. So I think that's very important. And then I say affordable. Now, I do know people who sell high ticket or higher priced products. I do know somebody who sells bicycles via drop shipping, but I do think that is more difficult for beginners because you've got a different set of factors to accommodate when you're selling higher ticket products. So I do think for simplicity, and that's US dollars I've put there to make it kind of universal. But I would always say, ideally try and keep things, under $25, maybe $30 max. I mean, on my store, Mercury Girl, my best sellers are by far the items that are under $20. Now, sometimes the margins can be a little bit slimmer. You might say the margins are better on high ticket products. But I do, and that can be true in certain cases, but I do think for beginners, it's a lot easier to start selling products that are not dirt cheap, not kind of a few dollars here and there, but certainly products that people aren't going to have to think about as much about buying. They're not going to have to think about spending $400, $500, $600. Because when you first start out as a drop shipper, the most exciting thing is getting your first sale and watching those sales kind of snowball, which isn't going to happen as quickly if you're selling very expensive items. You really have to tailor the market that you're selling into if you're going to sell high ticket items, which I don't think is always easy when you're a beginner in drop shipping. So those would be my key pillars to start with for successful product selection. So where are we going to look for these winning products? What's going to be our strategy to find these products? Well, one of the first areas we're going to address is actually using some of the big e-commerce sites to help with our research. It's not the only method we're going to use, but that is a really great approach to use some of those big e-commerce sites. And why is that? Well, they have huge amounts of data on which products are selling well, and that's what we want to know. We want to look for products which are selling well, not necessarily products that are very easy to come by in every store, that not necessarily a product that people need every day, so they may be a little bit impatient to get that product. If they can get it more easily on Amazon Prime, then maybe that might be a bit of a tough tough product to sell. But we can still use the data that the likes of Amazon and Etsy and so on have in order to help us find the popular and kind of trending products. Here are some of the sites we're going to take a look at, and some of them will be kind of early on, others we will look at a little bit later. But we're going to look at Amazon bestsellers, for example. We're going to have a look at wish.com, which some of you may be familiar with. Actually, all the products on Wish I think the majority of them do come from China anyway. They're very upfront about how long you'll have to wait to receive your products. And often they have a lot of very low cost products, and all you do is pay shipping. So they might charge you maybe $4 or $5 for shipping, and then you get the product for free. Now, that's not necessarily a route we're going to go down. Because that's going to be very hard for us to make any money, but that's how Wish operates with many of their many of their products and their sellers who are on there. We're going to look at Facebook because we can really see what kind of ads are on Facebook and what products are being promoted. We can have a quick look at Etsy. Now this is another this is one called Sell the Trend. This is a piece of software that basically helps you find trending products that are selling in other Shopify stores and that are also selling well on AliExpress. And AliExpress, which we'll talk about a little later, is where we're going to ultimately source our products from. Now, Sell the Trend is actually a paid for subscription. You can get a free trial but it is actually an ongoing paid subscription. But I wouldn't necessarily recommend doing that because you can find lots of data without necessarily having to pay on a monthly basis. I think it's just very good to have to start with, to have that perhaps in your toolkit in order to find some other products. We're also going to look at AliExpress, because AliExpress is ultimately where we're going to be buying our products from, or sourcing our products that are going to be sent directly to the customer. And also Oberlo. Now Oberlo and AliExpress are both going to come together in a later video when we talk about how we get those products from AliExpress, how we get the descriptions and the images into our Shopify store. And the application that's going to help us do that sits between Shopify and AliExpress. And if you've not heard of AliExpress before, it's a bit like the Chinese Amazon. Basically, it's a massive marketplace in Asia. It's owned by Alibaba, who ultimately is that the big, more the sort of the whole wholesale site where a lot of people, say eBay sellers, for example, source massive amounts of wholesale products from Alibaba and then bring them and store them in the UK. But AliExpress is like almost like the retail arm of Alibaba, where you can purchase your products on a one-by-one basis from the suppliers, which is what we're going to be doing in order to get those products to our customers. And the bit of software that sits in between, or the application in between AliExpress and Shopify, is called Oberlo. And Oberlo itself is really the kind of the management hub of your orders and your products and so on. So that really is a great place to look for recommendations as well. But we will look at that later, because we've got a whole video coming up on AliExpress and Oberlo and how those two work together. So now we're going to delve into our product research and putting into practice some of those points we made in the last slide. So let's check out the product research spreadsheet and get started on doing that.